Tying Tony Stewart in second place for all-time road course wins in the Cup Series. SVG takes home the checkered flag and the wine in wine country. Let's break it down now on Gas is on the Right. And we are back for another episode of Gas is on the Right podcast, brought to you by our partners, the Daily Downforce and Sundial Plumbing. Thank you for tuning in. Dan, me and you this week, buddy. How was your weekend, man?
It was pretty good. Kind of too short, but just
Hey, aren't they
two
all?
of us hanging it. Hold the fort down this weekend, but it goes like that sometimes.
Yeah. As they say, as a wise man once said, "It be like that sometimes." Um,
That's what the kids say nowadays. I just couldn't ever have that saying, so that saying went.
well, we just finished up our final road course of the 2026 season for NASCAR. How you feeling leaving wine country?
Uh, kind the outcome was kind of expected. I figured after San Diego and SVG would come to Sonoma motivated to get a win, and
Right.
that's what we saw. He pretty much dominated the whole race, led the most laps, and won the pole. And Chase Briscoe gave him everything he wanted there towards the end. But at the end of the day,
Yeah.
SVG does what SVG usually does on a road course: take home the checkered flag.
Yeah. With that though, do we feel like that he may have left something on the table not going after those stage points during the race? Obviously he fell outside of the top 16 in the chase-offs after that performance at San Diego. So do we feel like there's something to be left to be desired by giving up those stage wins as well and those extra 20 points he could have got? I know he still scored stage points, but he's still a little bit out of having a max point day.
Yeah, so SVG, he's getting better on the ovals, but if I could give myself a bit, if I was him, I'd want myself to have the biggest buffer I could have because Trackhouse has not had the greatest speed this year, and if I could give myself a great buffer, let's see if I can find it here. That doesn't say it. He is
Plus 36 right now.
plus 36. So,
Yeah.
and we got 8 races to the cutoff, and there's 2 super speedways in there. A couple. Say he goes to Atlanta and Daytona and gets wrecked and has a clunker of a day, somewhere else. It could be bad. And, it could be a matter of 5 or 6 points, and you think, oh, if I just won one stage or got some stage points at Sonoma, where would I be at? So yeah, they had a
Right.
good enough car. Like we literally saw him drive, make up like 46 seconds at Watkins Glen. I figure, they could have stayed out, got the stage points, and he had bad, pitch or bad track position. He's SVG. He could probably drove himself back up there and got, through strategy or something else, got back into the front. But they
Yeah.
decided not to do that and just go for the win, and we'll see if it works out for him.
Yeah, and I mean, my thought process on that falls on this too, is him leading, coming to those stage ends, and then pitting with before the two to go comes out and pit road closes. I mean, he had enough of a buffer that he could have got around and closed pit road before anybody could have got on. So then you
Yeah.
put it up to your team, your pit crew, get you on and off pit road during the stage break, and then come back around and re-rack and go. And I mean, with him having the pole, getting getting to be on the front of pit road right there, have your pit selection, you can set yourself up for a really successful day. And obviously with his lead, I mean, he could have closed it and maybe a car could have got down. Maybe Blaney could have got down pit road in time and got to the commit line, but I don't necessarily think so. So at that point, you're then creating it to where nobody can flip the stage on you. So, and if they do,
Yeah,
there you have 3+ on their tires. So, I think it would have been advantageous for them to make that adjustment and try to go ahead and max points the day versus taking what they could, and it was almost like licking their wounds and going for a win.
yeah. I thought he was going to come down and flip the stage there to set, try to stay out, because they
Hmm.
were talking about on the broadcast that SVG is they play some radio audio. Dale and Steve Tart was kind of gearing it that way, and then had radio audio that he was going to open it up and put the hammer down with about 4 or 5 laps to go before the closed pit road, try to get him a buffer, but it just never happened. He ended up pitting, so
Right.
instead of staying out. But I you know I can kind of see it both ways, I guess. But like when you know that you're probably going to come down to a fraction of the few points if you make it in. Every point's precious to you,
Yes. Yeah.
and I'd
Every
rather had
point, every position matters.
yeah, and just because you never know what can happen at Atlanta, and what can happen at Daytona, especially. If you get caught from somebody else's mess, and then you know there goes your buffer.
Right. So, well, speaking of somebody that helped create a little bit of a buffer, you had Ty Gibbs swept the stages, and he was the one that took advantage of that. So 20 stage points on the day for Gibbs, and bumps him to fourth in the chase off standings, leaving Sonoma with, granted, it's still a pretty big gap to second and first place, but he's only 26 points behind Ryan Blaney in third.
Yeah, and you know what? Denny Hamlin proved that anything's possible if you go on a heater. Ty Gibbs gets a roll of races here where he can maybe reel off a win or two and a couple top fives. Who knows? If
Right.
Reddick's snowball keeps rolling downhill, and if Ford's can't really kind of pick it up, could we be looking at a JGR 1-2 at the end of the regular season? Because Ty Gibbs he got that where he's really hot, then he kind of cooled off a little bit. But the last few weeks, that team has had consistent speed and back to the finishes that he had earlier in the year. So if they can catch fire again, Denny Hamlin proved anything's possible. It's just
Yeah, that's
got
very
to do it at
true.
the right time, and so we'll see what happens. But he, at times yesterday, I really thought Ty Gibbs might sneak up and get an SVG because he had a really good car and he finished third, and he was coming until his tires just kind of wore out a little bit, and but they kept showing him there. He was charging, picking cars off here and there, and thinking, man, if we get a caution here, Gibbs might be somebody to watch. But the caution never came, and Briscoe, it was Briscoe and SVG, but if a caution had come out, I probably wouldn't have bet against Ty Gibbs. That 54 was pretty fast yesterday. It looked pretty good.
Yeah, he definitely had a lot of speed. So I could have seen him really doing something yesterday, but unfortunately, the ship didn't fall his way. But he still walked away with a pretty hefty points day with 54 points on the day. So congratulations to Ty on that with a what was it, a third place finish? Yeah,
Third
third
place,
place
yeah.
finish. So um, well done to Ty there. But moving on, finally, some life from Connor Zillage with his first top 10 of the season with a seventh place finish. I tell you what, that hopefully that creates some momentum to turn the corner and as we wind down the regular season for that 88 car. Um, pretty pretty rough so far this season.
Yeah, and he didn't have this kind of the same speed SVG did. He was up there a few times, and he had kind of fade a little bit, just didn't have enough to stay with SVG. But he definitely had a good car, top 10 car, and he finished the deal and brought home that first top 10. Nothing went wrong this week, so he said post race on the radio. I was listening to it that he's just as the laps ticked down, he was just waiting for something to go bad, something to break, something to somebody to spin, him get caught up in it, just because that seems how it's went all year, and it never happened. So maybe that will kind of clear his mind, say I can do this, I can finish top 10, and just kind of a reset as we head into Chicagoland, where where everybody's. I know we've been there before, but it's been 2000, was it 2019?
Yeah, I don't think we've
So
been there
it's been
in
about
this new
6
car.
years. So this car's changed a whole lot in 6 years. So it's kind of fresh
Hmm.
to everybody. So maybe they can go there with this little bit of momentum they have and get another good finish. I ain't saying top 10, maybe, but top 15, top 20 to just kind of keep the shit riding in the right direction and make the last half of this season better than the first and give him some confidence going into 2027. Either that's back with Trackhouse or if the rumors are true with Hendrick wherever he's going, just kind of keep the momentum going in the right direction.
Yeah. Yeah, keep that ball rolling in some direction at least. That's a
Yeah.
good positive one. But it is good to see finally getting the finish he deserves and not overstepping or not getting caught up in somebody else's mess. So congratulations to Connor for finally getting that top 10 knocked out. Another good finish. Ryan Preece matches his best finish of the season at Bristol with an eighth place finish yesterday. Oh, I'm tongue tied. Yesterday at Sonoma. So that was a really good plus, especially, he's fighting back from that 25-point penalty, and now he's put himself 13 to the good on the cut line with some good racing left. He's got some good avenues to follow with Chicagoland, some short tracks coming up, which lean to his specialty. So I think, do we feel like that Ryan is safe in the chase offs, or do you think that there's still a chance to see one of these guys outside within striking distance from like Chastain, who's 45 out, or McDowell, Joey, Allmendinger, Brad, or Eric Jones coming to take him out of the top 16?
Um, you know, I, as an RFK fan, I hope they get all three cars back in there. But Priest, I would say probably he's in right now, and like I said, like you said, there's a few of these 1 mile racetracks, coming up where
And we got four
like
short tracks coming
Iowa
up.
and New Hampshire, where he seems to really thrive on those. And at Daytona and Atlanta, where he's been pretty good at Atlanta, and RFK always seems to shine at Daytona. That Ford, engines and super speedway package is usually pretty good. So if he could just stay out of trouble and have decent finishes at Iowa and New Hampshire like he has the last few years, he could keep his way in there. But kind of like we said with SVG, it's just when you look, you got Daytona and Atlanta. You never really know. Anybody could get caught up in that. Denny Hamlin could get
Yeah.
caught up in two wrecks at Atlanta and Daytona, and Reddick could go win both of those, and the lead be back out a little bit. You just never really know. That's just a wild card with those two races. And if he can get by there, if he can get by Atlanta probably, and still have a all right margin, you feel a little bit better with only Daytona and with Iowa and New Hampshire still to come. But you just kind of got to make it through the two big hurdles first.
Yeah, which I know we got one coming up in 2 weeks, and the other one caps off the regular season with Echo Park, Atlanta, coming up on the 12th, and then of course Daytona rounds us out on Saturday, the 29th of August. But yeah, like we said, I mean, you got a stretch there before Daytona that's Iowa, Richmond, and New Hampshire back to back to back.
Yeah,
On top
yeah,
of
and
we have
he
Norks Wilkesboro in 3 weeks, so um, a lot of short track, and you got some short track specialists that could really show out and show off coming up and make a difference in how their season is going to end up. But also, that's a lot of spoilers coming up too for some other guys that are sitting there right on the buffer.
Yeah, for sure. To kind of answer the back half of that question, I could definitely see Eric Jones getting back in. He's 17th right now. I could see him getting back in from the two road courses. Legacy's not that great, not really known for their road course stuff, but but we saw what they had rolling in before the road courses. If they could keep that same speed, yeah, for sure, Eric Jones could be. I could see him right back in the play, in the chase off contention, and you got Brad, and AJ Allmendinger and Logano still there, down there in 20th, who keep saying, if they can somehow pull out that, Penske magic that seems to strike every year and roll off some good, finishes, or maybe a win or two, because Blaney's pretty good at Iowa, so they think he won there last year, I want to say,
Yes.
and so if they could, if Logano could kind of figure it out, he could be right there. So it's going to set up very interesting. Be really interesting for us to watch and give us something good, a lot of content to talk about in the next coming week. This back half of the chase offs, because it's really close, and no more winning your in. So it's about who can put the finish together to scratch and claw their way back in there.
Yeah, with 8 races left, I really think if you're looking at the bubble and who we should really be watching for is it's going to be that 13th to 23rd, I think is really the spread. So you got Bubba Wallace in 13th plus 55, and then all the way down to 23rd is Zane Smith, only 61 out. So I think that's really where the race is going to be right now, to be watching is that back half of the field currently, for the chase
Yeah.
offs. So I'd be excited to see where we're at, especially once we leave Atlanta, going into some of these short tracks. North Wilkesboro, Indianapolis, being that 2 mile square or rectangle, and then you got three short tracks in a row, back to back to back. I'm definitely intrigued to see how that falls and who can take advantage and, like you said, string together those finishes, leaving there. But enough about it. Do want to give our kudos again to our winner, SVG. Second all time on the road course win list. He swept the weekend, taking the O'Reilly's race as well, taking the win there for Junior Motorsports. And also, he tied AJ Allmendinger for the most road course wins across all NASCAR's 3 touring series. So, just the record books keep adding SVG to them with the with how he's racing. Unfortunately, he will not have a chance to exceed Tony Stewart and tie Jeff Gordon with 9 wins this season, with us not having any Cup Series road course races left. But I mean, I see him easily elapsing that come next season.
Oh yeah, I'm saying next year I kind of expect we'll have a bit more than just the four we had this year.
Hmm.
I fully expect to see Mexico City back in there, just because the only reason it was off the schedule this year is because of the World Cup, and they're playing World Cup games at that stadium this summer, and so the schedule's conflicted, and you know, uh, you never know about Coronado. They talk about they want to go back, and I'm pretty sure the Athletics already confirmed that Chicago's coming back next year. So I figure we'll be back to that 6, maybe 7 road courses we had a few years ago next year. So yeah, SVG will probably blow by that and set it. This time next year, who knows? He could be at 10 or 11 at this point. Just because I
Right.
figure someone usually sneaks up and gets him maybe once or twice a year, but I figure he'll blow by it next year for sure. Especially if we get that back to that 5 to 6 like we've been at the last few years.
Yeah, and I mean the other thing on top of that too is Trackhouse can really start figuring it out. I think that it may be harder for people to come up on him because put him into a top tier car. Toyotas have been the class of the field all season thus far. So I mean, if you put him in a JGR or a 2311 Toyota just for kicks and giggles, I mean, he sweeps every road course this year easily.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
I mean, that's the only other vehicles that beat him is a Tyler Reddick Toyota and a Corey Heim Toyota. So I really think
Yeah,
there's
and
a lot of opportunity there that Trackhouse, they're starting to look better. They're still, it looks behind the 8 ball. I wouldn't consider them a B tier team this year currently with how they've ran and how their oval packages looked, but there's still some shining lights in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Chastain has, I know there was before San Diego, Pocono, I believe. He got that first top 10, since last fall on an oval since last fall. They kind of showed a little bit, you know, and just gonna have to kind of keep going. But that road course package, though, especially SVG, like he's just so good. Like
Yeah.
the braking zones and like he's just probably the. And I know caught some flack last time I said this, but I think he is the best road course racer that this sport's ever had. I know that's saying Jeff Gordon, Tony Stewart, but if you put Jeff Gordon and Tony Stewart in this field, I think SVG still smokes them. He's just he just got a knack for it. That's what he's done. That's all he's ever done. He knows so much more than everybody else, and
Right.
it's just he said, yeah, I know he didn't win them all this year, but different things, uh, you know, Hill,
Yeah.
Austin Hill don't smoke the corner. He probably wins that one. He was on his way to win San Diego until that happened. Then Tyler Reddick just he got him in Coda, but yeah, so,
Yeah. If he's got an
it'd be
Achilles
hard
heel
for
right
me to.
now, it's Coda.
Yeah, yeah. Has he won there? Has he?
I think he's won there in the Xfinity, but or the O'Reillys, but I don't
Yeah, I
think
don't
he's
think he
won
got.
the Cup.
I know Bell won one and Byron won one, and I don't think since he's been over here, but I don't think he's won at Coda
Yeah,
in the
I don't
Cup.
think
I
he's
don't
been
think.
able to get that one locked in yet, but I don't see that
Yeah,
going too
he'll
far
he'll
before he
get it figured
does.
out soon enough. Yeah,
Yeah, no, it
soon
won't
enough.
take him long at all.
Yeah.
So, but on to some last thoughts leaving Sonoma. We got the in-season challenge started, so we got our updated bracket for our next rounds. So some upsets. We saw Tyler Reddick get the boot. And I think it's the biggest upset with Bowman beating him to move on to the next round. So our lineup as it is currently is you will have Bowman and Cindric head to head, Gilliland and Hocevar, Briscoe and Gibbs, McDowell and Elliott, SVG and Blaney, Byron and Larson, Busher and Bell, and Hamlin and Jones. Denny Hamlin beat his Achilles heel last year and Ty Gibbs or Ty Dillon. So interesting to see. Now there's still some parity in this, but I see a lot more of the upper front of the field leading that now than we did last year.
Yeah, I think this year would be, Ty Dillon, give him credit. He was in front of Denny Hamlin late. Then some power steering issues. Something you really don't want to have at a road course. Made that car hard to drive, and Denny did get by him. I think with maybe a handful of laps to go, but there for a while, Ty Dillon looked like he was going to pull that upset again, but the car kind of gave way on him and ruined his shot of pulling another upset against Denny. But just looking at it, there are some good matchups. Like you got um, Briscoe versus Ty Gibbs, two Gibbs cars going head to head, and both those cars have been fast here lately. Chris Busher, Christopher Bale, that's another good one. Then you got a Hendrick matchup with Byron and Larson. Then you look into here, who could be the upset? Could Bowman go and he won there the last time they went there. Could he go and get a win again and upset Cindric? I don't know if that'd be really considered an upset, but I don't know how many people thought the 32 seed would go to the round of 8. But if that was to happen, if McDowell could beat Chase, just not really a whole lot of upset opportunities besides maybe like SVG over Blaney or Bowman over Cindric. So
Yeah, Jones over Hamlin
you're
would probably be a little
yeah
bit of an upset. So considering we're
yeah
going back
that's
to an
2 versus
oval and
15. Yeah, that'd be a
any
that would
type of
be a
oval right now with Denny is betting against them is probably not the best bet.
Yeah, that one I could see Eric Jones doing that if Denny was to not have the best of days or something. But yeah, that's really your best shot, I guess. Would be probably your biggest one looking at it. But it looks like this year we'll have a little bit more, I guess, competitive in season challenge. Where last year, you had some of the back guys, that was good for them and good TV time for them. But looks
Right.
like this year will have more of your top teams doing it out.
Yeah, yeah, not as much parity this year.
No,
So, but moving on to some off-track news, RFK is going to be running a Dodge in the Truck Series, which sparked a whirlwind of rumors that Brad K shut down this week. But let's start with that. It's a little surprising um, that Ford's allowing that to be the case with their
yeah,
the partnership, because it seems like Colleague did the same thing with opening the Dodge team, but Colleague isn't getting the assistance from their Cup Series manufacturer in Chevy, like
if it
Ford's still going to be getting.
and I could be wrong, but is it are they running the truck series? I just thought the Roush Performance was making a Dodge truck.
It may be that they're just making a Dodge truck.
Yeah, that's what it got.
So
I got it pulled up. Yeah, Roush
yeah,
Performance which is best known for its Ford-based builds, announced plans to unveil a truck designed jointly with Ram in the summer of 2026. And that kind of like you said, that sparked the rumor mill in a hurry. That then Jordan Belanke kind of fed into that. Earlier later in the week when he came out and said that Dodge was pretty much a done deal. They were going to be back in the Cup Series, and everybody, including myself, started linking these two stories, and they go, well, could we see RFK make that jump? But because you just kind of look at, Brad kind of was not too, not too keen on Ford there when he was on the Prime broadcast. He had not some nice things to say about how they performance wise this year, and
hmm
so you kind of think, well, maybe maybe this is kind of the writings on the wall that they're going to be that Cup team, or maybe them and Colleague is going to merge somehow, and they're going to because back a couple years ago it was Colleague and RFK had an alliance, so maybe they're going to merge somehow and be Dodge. But Brad came out and put that one to rest, saying they have a multi-year agreement with Ford Performance. So I've still seen people. He's got to say that they're under contract. He's got to say that. I figure he don't come out and make that press release if they're going to leave in 2 weeks. If it's but I'm interested to see if the other team if it is just Colleague or does somebody else make the move with them. I don't know who that would be. I don't see Richard Childress leaving Chevrolet. I just don't see that. He's been with Chevy forever. I don't see him leaving. But
right. I mean, it's a
I don't.
kind of a open playing field at that point, and then also does Dodge take advantage of those charters remaining and does a new team come in as a whole?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that would be a
yeah,
very intriguing thing to watch and see what happens there with Dodge currently, as it sounds like they're gonna plan on cup racing in 2027.
yeah. They, in that athletic story, they said the holdup was the engines, and Jordan Belanke said in that article that they have found a solution to get past that, and that would work for them. So have they merged? That's another thing that everybody kind of think. Well, have route shapes engines, so they're going to just go build the engines there. And that's why another speculation. I was thinking RFK, and that's why I was saying maybe Childress. Cause I know they have Childress. Earnhardt Ganassi engines. I think that's who flies Childress's engines. But again, who knows? I know that a couple weeks ago I did see on the good old X that there was a colleague car hauler at the NASCAR wind tunnel in Charlotte. It's just a hauler, and people are wondering what this could be about. And now you kind of wondering, well, did they have a Dodge body that they're going through the tunnel and doing some testing on? Hear this, so kind of makes a little bit more, cause everybody was wondering what they were doing there, and so you hear this now and think, oh, okay, maybe they were testing out the aero on the new Dodge body or a new, prototype or whatever, So who knows? I guess I
Yeah.
figure we'll know here in the next coming weeks. It seems like this middle summer, end of the summer is when we kind of start finding out a lot of the information. So I figure in the next few weeks we'll know.
Yeah, I could see it definitely sooner than later. And like you said, we're starting to get to the time of the year that when we see the silly season really come into fruition. We're getting towards schedule releases and everything here in the next coming months. So there will be a lot of stuff coming up. I could see and coming out, and it'd be interesting to see where this goes from here. Obviously, we all know it looks like that Kaulig is the front runner to take on the Dodge manufacturing brand, um, just due to losing their complete alliance with Chevy this season and everything. But kudos to them also for running as well as they have, even without having the Chevy alliance. So um, it'll be interesting to see. It will be interesting to see. But
Yeah.
what I don't think there was too terribly much this week in the news. Um, so I think we're ready to move on to our standings, aren't we?
Yeah, that's an talk. This uh, Spire did come back. I know we talked a little bit that last week. Spire did come out and release a statement, kind of responding to JGR's, kind of jab at them last week. So they kind of come out and release their own statement. Let me pull this up here. This this is just kind of what they put out. I'll just run through it real fast.
Hmm.
This is a case about a NASCAR team that, unable to keep a rising competitor in its rearview mirror, turned to the courthouse in a brutal effort to protect its long dominant reign over the sport, rather than acknowledge that Spire is a bystander of what amounts to a bad breakup that one side evidently regrets. JGR has chosen to ignore its own behavior and blame everyone else for the position it finds itself currently in. The only explanation for JGR's irrational behavior is that it wants to take competition off the racetrack and bully a competitor in the courtroom. This isn't what racing is about, and this isn't what we think JGR was built on. So that's just kind of a little statement there that they come out and said, you're just not going to point us in, to be bad, and so that's just kind of what
Yeah,
we're
we're
going to
not
get, I
gonna roll
believe.
over and just take this. It sounds like.
Yeah, we're just,
Um, Good.
so that's
Yeah, they're
that's
not gonna
that.
roll over and take that punishment and that punching bag. They're not gonna be a punching bag for JGR with deep pockets from the what they're trying to say. Um, and I could definitely see that being a part of the contention there. I mean, Spire
Yeah,
has some valid points in that. I don't I don't disagree with some of those points. Those are pretty valid claims that they're making. So now it's just to see how they come to fruition and the once the battle makes it to the courtroom,
yeah.
which I think you
Well,
said they're set up for sometime in this off season.
yeah, I think it's like early January of next year. So I figure, I don't, like we were talking last week. I don't think they'll settle. I could be wrong. I
Hmm.
think both sides think they're right, and they have that. They're both led by that, alpha personalities. Joe Gibbs and Jeff Dickerson that ain't gonna back down and ain't gonna concede anything.
Right.
So it's going to have to. He'll go to fruition. I believe. I could be wrong, but this is how I see it.
Yeah, definitely making it all the way up and then letting it play out the way it's going to in the courtroom. But it's going to be fun to watch. We always
It
enjoy
will
some good
be.
NASCAR.
All right. I
Season
guess
two
I
of it.
guess we can move. Guess we can move on to the point standings. That's all I have there.
All right, well, on to the point standings. We now, for the first time since Daytona, have a new points leader. with Denny Hamlin claiming the top spot, 1 point above Tyler Reddick in second, followed by Blaney, Gibbs, Larson, Elliott, Busher, Hocevar, Suarez, and Christopher Bell round out the top 10. And then you got Briscoe, Byron, Wallace, SVG, Ryan Preece, and sitting on the bubble +2, Austin Cindric. So quite a fun top 16. We're starting to really see it shape up at what this end of the regular season picture is going to look like. So, we've been talking about that champion is going to come out of that top six, top seven. Well, right now in the top six, it's Chase Elliott rounds out the top six, and then he's sitting with a 36-point lead over seventh of Chris Busher. But then seventh to eighth is a 9-point gap. But then you have from eighth to ninth is a 35-point gap. So there's some discrepancies in there, and you could really see some guys, some movement still in there. So that's going to be interesting to see. That obviously creates a lot of storylines that we'll see. And like we talked about earlier, I mean, if you go down, I think this race for the chase and for the chase offs really comes down to all the way down to 23rd, with Zane Smith sitting 61 points out with eight races to go. Because you have some guys in there that are normal, either fringe bubble guys or playoff contenders in the past, with Eric Jones in 17th, Keselowski in 18th, AJ in 19th, Joey Logano, 3-time champion, only 31 points out in 20th, McDowell in 21st, Ross Chastain, a championship 4 contender a couple years ago, only 45 points out in 22nd. So I think that's going to be interesting to see how, again, like that back half of the field is going to be fun to watch. But another thing that I want to touch on is my too early champion pick, who's made quite the comeback and really started to secure himself inside of the chase offs, and Chase Briscoe. Finally, he's 79 points to the good of the cut line now in 11th. Talk about a comeback this season.
Yeah, they
So
have.
that one
Go ahead.
rivals that of Denny Hamlin's last couple races run that's put him in the lead for points.
Yeah, we talked about it a few weeks ago when we did our early, when we kind of reviewed our two early championship picks, and I was like, I don't think he really got much to worry about. I think that Briscoe eventually, James Small's too good of a crew chief at 19 bunches, too good of a team to just stay down for long. They're going to figure it out, and they've definitely figured it out. They are showing some muscle, I guess, here lately, and he's like, where was it? The 11th, you said. So he's crawling into that, top 10, and if he could, the next section, in these next 8 races, he could get that 7th to 8th place. And he could have something to say about it, and mine too early when he's holding there in 10th, right in front of your guy. So Bell's kind of, I know he had some bad luck last week, which we got out of the car and had a mechanical failure, but he showed some grit yesterday. So I know that wasn't fun. I know that wasn't easy, going left and right with a fractured wrist, and I think he came on with a top 5. I want to say Bell finished. I checked that. Let's say it was like 4th or 5th, right behind Ty Gibbs.
Let me double
Let's
check
see.
here, trying to get the race results back up.
He,
Yeah, 5th
he's
place
fifth,
and a
yeah.
50-point day.
So to the broken wrist, come home 5th at Sonoma was not easy. So if he could kind of keep, again, like there's some tracks coming up there for Bale that's kind of falling his wheelhouse again. So he's only, could we see him get to that 3rd, 4th, and have to, could we have a JGR 1, 2, 3 there if he could get by Larson, and so it'd be something to see. But I'm happy with my guy there that he's kind of getting into the point standings there too a little bit better, and seems like it's been snowballing for him and all this year, but he's holding strong in 10th. So, but
Yeah, definitely on the up and up in that sense. So, but further it, let's see here. So let's go into our picks. Fortunately, we'll only be able to make your pick and my pick, which granted we placed first and second in our picks. Daniel and Emily will place theirs at a later time, just due to them being unavailable today. But Dan, who you want for Chicagoland this week?
I didn't, and I can't. My stat sheet, I ain't gonna look at it because it's been 6 years since we've been there. I'm just gonna have to. Let's go look at my who I got available here. Not fast. I should have done this earlier today, but it's been a kind of crazy day. So let's look at this sheet right fast. Who I got? Who I feel good about here.
You got the last
You can go
winner.
ahead if you have your pick because I'm going to kind of just take a look who I have here.
Well,
Just to
I
kind
got
of
an
just
idea on who I want to pick, but I'm gonna kind of hold out until I hear yours because I don't want to
yeah.
take one from you. I got a couple
Uh,
different avenues that I'm looking at here, and it's just kind of figuring out what would be my best option when it comes to this.
yeah.
You definitely you closed our points lead. You and I are tied at 66 points in our standings. With you having a 9.6 average finish, me with a 9.8, and you also closed some points on me in our point standings. I'm up at 661 to your 615 right now. So talk about a two-horse race. We're pulling off a little bit as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. I think looking at it, I think I know who I got. I'm just going, like I said, it's been 6 years since we've been to Chicagoland, and I only have two Toyotas left. I guess I'm going to burn one here, uh, because the Toyotas, when in doubt, go with Toyota. And
There you go.
I'm going with Bubba Wallace. Let's see what the 23 bucks can get me this week.
Bubba Wallace. Well, I'm going to follow suit with another Toyota. I was kind of holding out hope a little bit, but looking at everybody's picks remaining and so on and so forth, I want to go ahead and use it now. So I'm going to take Christopher Bell at
I almost picked
Chicagoland.
Bell. I almost picked
Obviously,
him.
still hurting, but he's on the up and up in the right direction that we want him to go. So I feel confident in that pick. Like I said, we'll have Daniel, who plays third, and Emily, who plays fourth, make their picks later in the week, and we'll discuss where they fall coming next week. But leaving out of putting Sonoma in the rear view and moving to Chicagoland, you got any final thoughts before we wrap up this episode?
Not much. I'm kind of looking forward to it. I hope Chicagoland puts on a good product, like I think it will. This car runs, the next gen runs really well in mile and a half, and I like Chicagoland. I hated it when they took it off the schedule, and I hope it puts on a good product. I hope the fans turn out and support the racetrack because all we've heard, last few years on the social medias and stuff is, hey, I'd like to have Chicagoland back. I'd like to have Chicagoland. Well, here it is. Here's your chance. I know it's the 4th of July weekend, but what better way to go out and spend the 4th of July weekend than at a racetrack? And go out and buy
Exactly.
tickets and support the racetrack. And if you want the racetrack to stay on the schedule, you got to be
You got
there
to
and
make sure you're
support
making
it.
it. Yep.
And so no better way to make it stick around than butts and seats. So that's all I have. I'm looking forward to it. I hope it's a good race, and the 4th of July weekend, and hope it, always kind of something about NASCAR and the 4th of July weekend always just kind of goes together. And glad we're racing on 4th of July weekend again.
Yeah, we'll see what happens come post Chicagoland. Definitely looking forward to seeing this back on the schedule. It's a worn out surface. Should be a lot of fun, a lot of slipping and sliding. So can't wait to see what happens here. Don't forget to follow us on our social medias. You can find in the description our plug for our link tree that has all of our other social media avenues and assets through there. Make sure to check us out on dailydownforce.com. And we will talk to you guys post Chicagoland. Have a great week.